Hello there, and recently I made a build video talking about this little snow cone guy next to me. And it got about 33,000 views on the channel, which is now my biggest video to date. So first of all, thank you. I really wasn't expecting to get that much love and hype on that video. And second of all, I really wanted to return to this build because when I made it, we really didn't have a clear understanding of what the meta was gonna be. And there were still a lot of things to come out during the season for us to use. So in today's video, we're going to be bringing everything up to speed and make a Ice Warlock build that will cover you during the entire duration of Season of the Lost. And no other place to start besides the aspects and fragments that we're going to be using in this build. The most obvious aspect that we're going to be using is the Bleak Watcher, where whenever you hold your grenade button down while you have a fully charged grenade, it's going to turn it into an ice turret. And that turret is then going to be shooting slowing bullets at enemies nearby, eventually freezing them, which then procs our other aspect that we're going to be using, called Glacial Harvest, where every time we freeze an enemy, it's going to create these stasis shards, giving us melee energy whenever we pick them up. But that's not the main reason why we are running shards in the first place. We are using it for a certain mod in the build called Elemental Shards. Basically what this mod does is that every stasis shard that we have on the ground is going to be counted as a stasis elemental well, giving us grenade, melee, and rift energy all at the same time. This is really good because of the amount of stasis shards we're creating from all of our stasis turrets freezing targets along with our melee and our super. We pair this with the fragment Whisper of Conduction, and it's going to allow us to suck all of those shards into us whenever we are near them. For the other fragments, we're going to be using Whisper of Bonds, giving us super energy whenever we kill a frozen target, Whisper of Fissures increasing the size of the AoE explosion on shatter kills, and Whisper of Torment allowing us to gain grenade energy whenever we take damage. Of course, you guys still have the choice of using whatever fragments you desire. These are just the ones that I personally enjoy running. Now let's actually take a look at the main exotics that we're going to be running in this build. The first one being the Eye of Another World. This is hands down by far the most popular exotic to run for Ice Warlock just because there isn't really anything better. Or at least until something comes out during the 30th anniversary with Galahorn or something during Witch Queen. But Eye of Another World will basically give you a flat 9% bonus to all of your cooldown speeds, allowing you to have a much higher uptime on all of your abilities without even thinking about it. But even though I said Eye of Another World is the best exotic by far to run for Ice Warlock, there still is the option of using Verity's Brow, which is an exotic helmet that will give you grenade energy back via death throws whenever you get a kill with a weapon that matches your subclass type. Keyword there being matching your subclass type. And for stasis, we would have to have stasis weapons, which there are only a handful in the game that we're allowed to use right now, or until something new comes out. But the best way to take advantage of these weapons is to pretty much use the perk Headstone along with your build, if you choose to run Verity's Brow. Because what Headstone does is whenever you get a headshot with your stasis weapon, it's going to create a stasis crystal on their corpse, allowing you to shoot it to proc Whisper of Fissures, or if you swap something out for your fragments, Whisper of Shards is also an option, giving you a burst of grenade energy for a set duration based on how many stasis crystals you break. Overall, your exotic slot for your armor is relatively flexible with Eye of Another World if you just want to slap it on and forget about it, or run more of a stasis weapon oriented build with Verity's Brow. It's really up to you. But now let's actually move into the mods that we're running for this build, and all the mods are going to be flexible so that they are both usable on Verity's Brow and Eye of Another World. The first major mod of the build being Elemental Shards. As I stated before, every time we pick up a stasis shard, they're going to count as a stasis well. And that's why we're going to be using the mod Elemental Charge with it, where every time we pick up a well that matches our subclass, that's going to give us 2 stacks of Charge with Light. We're then going to use both of those stacks of Charge with Light on the mod Firepower, where every time we throw our grenade, it's going to give us grenade energy back, consuming 1 stack of Charge with Light. We're also able to stack this mod to increase its benefits, where using 1 firepower is going to give us about 10 to 15% of our grenade, and 2 of them is going to give us 30% of our grenade. So for this build, we're going to be using 2 firepower mods because we've already got 2 armor pieces that are using Elemental Shards and Elemental Charge, covering a total of 4 pieces of our armor. And then finally, inside of our class item, we're going to be using the Fabled Particle Deconstruction, because why not? It's the best DPS mod in the game that we have right now, giving us 40% more damage to our linears and fusion rifles. But what we're really looking at is the mod Resonant Siphon, where whenever a champion is stunned by us or a member of our fire team, we're going to gain about 20% stasis ability energy for our grenade, melee, and rift. Now, the funny thing about this mod is that we can abuse it with Stasis Freeze, because whenever you freeze a champion, specifically an Overload champion or an Unstoppable champion, it's gonna refresh their champion aura, allowing you to instantly stun them again to farm ability energy, and locking them in an infinite perpetual loop of agony, or at least until you've got like 30 snow cones on the ground and you've killed the champion. But that pretty much is going to cover the mods for the build. Hang on a moment, here comes the champion now. I'll be back in a second.
Fight back! Fight back!
As I was saying, that would be the final mod for the build. So let's move on to the weapons of the build, or at least the weapons that I recommend that you guys run to get the most out of the build. Starting off with those stasis weapons that I mentioned earlier, starting off with the Ager Scepter exotic trace rifle. And what Ager Scepter does is whenever you shoot targets with it and kill them, it's going to send out a pulse that freezes enemies nearby. That pulse will also specifically proc every stasis fragment and aspect that involves freezing or killing targets. In other words, we can take advantage of Whisper of Fissures, Whisper of Bonds, and even get our stasis shards active, just by killing a singular mob with Ager's Scepter. Then for Ager's Catalyst, when you have your super full, you can hold the reload button to transfer it into an overcharged mode. And while you're in that overcharged mode, Ager's Scepter is going to deal 80% more damage as you are shooting targets. It's also going to consistently drain your super bar as you are shooting it, but you can also gain a lot of that super energy back because we're using Whisper of Bonds. And the big icing on top is that it's going to be freezing targets as you shoot them too, giving us stasis shards the entire time we're doing it. So you're going to create those stasis bursts, get stasis shards, get our stasis turrets up, and just continuously flow with a bunch of stasis energy until your super bar runs out, putting you back in square one. If for some reason that you decide to take Ager's Scepter off, you can still run the Vulpecula hand cannon or the Peace Bond sidearm with Headstone, and then run something in your secondary or heavy slot that's exotic. But that's really up to you. As far as the other weapons in the build go, it really comes down to whatever you have or whatever you like. I would personally recommend something with Demolitionist if you could, but use whatever you feel would fit the situation best. But yeah, guys, I think that's going to be covering the build for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun making this build again. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment down in the comment section if you use this build, or if you want to see me cover something in the future. And if you really enjoy my content, then consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell to be notified whenever a new build video goes out. But I think that's going to be it for me, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.